Alright, so somebody on the After Effects subreddit asked how to create an animation that's similar to the North Sea Jazz Festival. Essentially, it's slicing up a word and then sort of offsetting and delaying the animation. So I can show you how I made this replication. Right now this works with position. You could set it up to work with rotation as well. You could also make this position a little more fancy, with some curves, and this would all follow as well. So right now we've got it with just two keyframes, which I think is ideal. I think with something like this, you want to set it up so it basically is all automated. So alright, so let's set this up. We're going to create our main comp, which is just going to be like our word animation. We'll do that 1080 by 1080. Doesn't really matter though. And we'll create our word and go ahead and center it. Then we're going to pre-compose it, and we'll call this word slice. So the idea is that we have one pre-comp that is going to be sliced in a way that we determine using a track mat. So we're going to add in a rectangle, add a fill so we can see it, and we're going to set the width to 1080 because that's the size of our comp, and we're going to set the height to something that we can control. So we're going to add a new null object, and then we're going to add a slider on that, and we're going to call it slice height. So we're going to pick whip that, so we'll say this is value 0, and then we will point to the slice height, and we'll name this controls. So now we can change this, and we've got these controls. What we want to do is we want this slice to be lined up to the top of our word. So first we'll just do that, and then what we want to happen is that when we change the height of the slice, we want it to only change from one side. So we need to set up an expression here where we set the position to, I believe it's just going to be half of the y. So we're looking at that. Now it's offset, but it should behave the way that we want. Okay, so it behaves the way we want. So now we line it up to the word, and then we're going to set that as our mat for our word. And that's great. So we've got a way to slice this up, but what we want to do is be able to say which slice of this word we're taking. So we want this word to be able to move along here so that we're getting different slices, and we want it to move by the height of the slice. So that means we need to add a expression to the height or the position of the word, and we're just going to say value plus, let's actually create a variable up here that says, that's called offset, and that's going to be my slice height. So we're going to look at the slice height, and then it's going to be times, we're going to create another value here that's called like slice num equals, and for now we'll just say 1, and we'll figure this out in a second, but this would be called times slice num. So then we're going to do value plus, we don't want it to move anywhere in the x, so 0, and then offset. And great, now on our control layer we're going to add another slider and call this slice num. So now we'll take this 1 and we'll point it to this slice num so that we can move it along. I'm going to make sure that this is doing the right thing. It looks like it's backwards, so if we got it on 0, so what we need to do here is add a negative to our offset. So yeah, now we're moving along. Great. So we have all the controls we need here. We can add other things, like we can add a color control and set a fill on our word and then link those up, which is done like so. And now if we change this, great. Now what we need to do is make it so that we can control those things within this layer. So enter Essential Graphics. So what we're going to do is go to our controls, add property to Essential Graphics. We've got our slice num, add property to Essential Graphics. And I'm not sure why it's opening up my other comp right now, but whatever. Okay, great. So now we need to set up some logic in here, and we want to do it in a way that is as automated as possible. So let's also, it doesn't matter. Okay, well, let's just clean this up a little bit and center these things, and it should all work because it's just relative values. So now we want to set in our Essential Graphics this to 0. Let's set this to something like 6. Then we've got really thin slices there. We want these to automatically determine the slice number based on the index of the layers. So what that means is we're going to look at slice number here, and we're going to set this to index. So right now, that sets it to 1. We don't want that. We want it to be set to 0 if it's the first layer. So it's index -1. Great. So now we should be able to duplicate these layers, and you can see that they're all coming in and they're filling in that word. Now we need a way that we can offset them in time. Like if we move this layer, the others will follow. That's pretty easy to do. Essentially, we want to be able to animate just our top one here, and then move it up, and the other ones will follow with a delay. So let's do that. I think something like that. We're going to need expressions again. So what we're doing here is we're going to look at this comp dot layer, and then we're going to be looking at the index, but we want it -1 to look at the layer above it. And then we're going to say transform dot position. So we only want to look at the position right now. And then we're going to say value at time minus, and then we need to create a control layer here that is called this time controller, and then we'll put a slider, call it time offset, and we'll go here, and then T offset. Great. So now we can go and copy expression only, paste this on here. We can see that we don't have an offset. So I played around with this before, and I think like 0.001 is, maybe it was, no, it's maybe just 0.01. So you can see there, it's working, but we don't have enough layers. That's easy enough, so we just like Control D, duplicate a bunch of these until we stop seeing new things, and then you can probably delete the last one, and then it will move up. You can adjust these curves. I think if it's got like a pretty heavy delay, it is easier to read in that part of it. You know, the steeper this is, the further apart they'll be. Sorry, brain break. I mean, that's the basic idea. And if you were going to set it up for the rotation, you would do the same thing, except for change this script here, expression here, to say rotation instead of position value, and obviously apply it to the position.